There is something almost wrong about this question because in real life, these two are brothers in every way that matters. Khabib helped raise Islam in the gym, handed the torch to him, and now stands in his corner as a coach. But if we park the emotions for a second and just talk as fight fans, it is one of the most fascinating hypothetical matchups you can imagine. Prime Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Prime Islam Makhachev. On one side, you have an undefeated legend who walked away at 29-0, with dominant wins over Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje before retiring in 2020. On the other, you have a more polished, slightly more modern version of the Dagestani template, a 28-1 monster with a 16-fight UFC win streak, lightweight reign, and now a welterweight title on top. So if both of them froze their best night and stepped into the cage across from each other, what would that actually look like? This video is going to answer all that. Let's begin. Defining their primes. Prime Khabib is not hard to spot. Prime Khabib is not hard to spot. From UFC 205 through UFC 254, the Michael Johnson, Barboza, Iaquinta, McGregor, Poirier, Gaethje run is where everything clicked. He was fully in tune with his weight cut, his wrestling timing was perfect, and his confidence was sky high. In that stretch, he took the lightweight belt, defended it 3 times, and never looked close to losing. Prime Islam feels like a slower burn that peaks during and after the Oliveira fight. Once he dominated Charles Oliveira for the belt at UFC 280, then beat Alexander Volkanovski twice and Dustin Poirier in brutal attritional fights, he stepped into that best-in-the-world right now space. Add in the move to welterweight and the win over Jack Della Maddalena to become a 2-division champion, tying Anderson Silva's record 16-fight UFC streak, and you get the current version of Islam that feels like a complete, fully upgraded champion. The style clash inside the same system. Both men are built on combat sambo, chain wrestling, and suffocating top control. That is the system Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov drilled into them from childhood, combining sambo, judo, and wrestling, and weaponizing it for MMA. Khabib's version of it is raw and more chaotic. His style is often described as mauling for a reason. He runs opponents to the fence, clamps their legs, glues his weight on top, and then hits them while shouting instructions in their ear. Even when his striking looks basic, his pressure and pace make people crumble. Islam's version is like the calm, silent cousin of the same style. He still has the pressure, but he applies it in a more methodical way. He uses trips, body lock takedowns, and timing rather than explosive shots. On the ground, he looks more positionally tidy, and his submission game from top, especially the arm triangle and Bravo variations, has finished some of the best lightweights alive. On the feet, who blinks first? If there is an area where Islam clearly looks more modern, it is the stand-up. Khabib's striking worked, but it was never pretty. He used simple combinations to crash forward, mixed in awkward overhands, and relied heavily on the threat of takedowns to land anything meaningful. Islam, especially in his later run, has become an actually dangerous striker. His kicks at range, the left high kick that slept Volkanovski, the way he sets up his entries behind feints and counters, all of that looks more polished than anything we saw from Khabib. He is more comfortable playing at mid-range, reading reactions, and then choosing whether to wrestle or stay standing. In a pure stand-up battle in their primes, you would probably trust Islam's timing, defense, and shot selection more. But the thing with Khabib is that you almost never got a pure stand-up battle. Within a minute, you were usually dealing with his hands on your legs or your back pressed against the fence. The wrestling and grappling battle. This is where it gets ugly and interesting. Both men have ridiculous takedown numbers and control time against elite competition. Khabib's career was defined by his ability to put almost everyone on their back and keep them there while landing damage and advancing position. Islam's record at lightweight and now at welterweight shows similar dominance, along with elite stats in strike accuracy and takedown defense. In a wrestling exchange, a lot depends on who takes the initiative. If Khabib drives Islam to the fence, does Islam's balance and upper body throws allow him to reverse and end up on top the way he does to other wrestlers? Or does Khabib's frantic chain wrestling force Islam into a defensive shell he is not used to being in? One argument in Khabib's favor is that we never saw him out-grapple. No one put him on his back and held him there. Islam, on the other hand, was dropped and finished once very early in his UFC run, and has had a couple of tough back-and-forth grappling moments, like the first Volkanovski fight in Perth. The argument for Islam is that his technique looks a touch sharper, his submissions more varied, and he has done it across more stylistically different opponents, including a smaller, faster pound-for-pound great like Volk and a crafty veteran like Poirier. If they clinch repeatedly over 5 rounds, it might come down less to raw wrestling and more to small positional battles. Who wins the inside tie? who gets head position, who is fresher in rounds 4 and 5 mindset and intangibles. This might be the most important category of all. Khabib in his prime was fighting with his father's game plan in his head and a promise to his mother in his heart. He has talked many times about the discipline of those years, how focused he had to be, and how much sparring and grind it took to maintain that level. He genuinely believed he could not lose, and he fought with that kind of unshakable confidence. Islam's mindset has a different flavor. He had to live in Khabib's shadow for a long time. People called him Khabib 2.0 and doubted whether he could be his own man. The pressure ramped up even more once he became champion and then started breaking records that belonged to Khabib and BJ Penn. Despite that, he stayed patient, took the long route, and kept stacking wins. That creates a different kind of mental toughness, more about patience and staying on track than about raw fire. In a fight between them, Khabib might come in with that "I will break you" mindset he showed against McGregor and Gaethje. Islam might come in with the colder, more calculating champion mentality, the one he has used while quietly tying Anderson Silva's win streak and adding a second belt, the era question. Khabib's prime came in a lightweight division that was violent, but a little less layered than what Islam is dealing with now. He beat world-class fighters, no question, but the metagame has kept evolving. Training science, game planning, the blending of striking and grappling, all of that keeps increasing. Islam is operating in that more developed meta, with people studying Dagestani wrestling on YouTube, building specific camps to stop his style, and still failing. He has also beaten champions and pound-for-pound elites who are more used to dealing with heavy wrestlers. The flip side is that Khabib came up in the wild days of his own rise. He fought through injuries, long layoffs, and still never gave away a round when it really mattered. That kind of chaos tested him in ways that a more polished era might not. So, who actually wins? If you really force the question and strip the emotion out, a lot of fans lean toward Khabib by a hair, just because he never showed a crack and retired untouched in the loss column. He carried a level of aura that is hard to quantify. There is a version of this hypothetical where Khabib's pace, top pressure, and ability to chain takedowns eventually wear even Islam down, especially in a small cage. There is another version, though, where Islam's cleaner striking, slightly sharper technique, and experience across 2 weight classes allow him to stay a step ahead. In that script, he stuffs enough early shots, lands the better counters, maybe even takes Khabib down once or twice, and edges out a close, exhausting decision. But it will be a very difficult win for Islam. If they somehow fought in their primes, it would probably be one of the most technical, stubborn grappling battles in MMA history. On some nights, maybe Khabib finds a way to break Islam. On other nights, maybe Islam's upgrades and experience in a tougher era let him edge Khabib out. But the real beauty is that we do not need an official winner. The legacy of both together is already bigger than any single dream matchup between them.